This call is all about, and discussion is going to be all about young women doing whatever the fuck they want to, and whether or not that's true. And frankly, like, why the hell isn't it true if that is the case? Because it's 2021 and it really should be. So I thought we'd just start very open-ended question. Who runs the world, men or women?
I think about this all the time, and I want to say that women run the world, because hell yeah, we do. And if we're not running it, we're certainly, moving it in the direction that we want it to go. In which way is it being directed now, since we have social media, since more women have a voice, since we've had the opportunity to become so vocal in our needs and in the way that we want to do things? How is that changing? What I'm seeing is a lot of men in leadership adopting more feminine leadership characteristics, such as empathy, such as vulnerability.
What do you think the impact of like social media has been on like kind of equalizing the playing field a little bit, because you suddenly have access to an audience, right? It just exists.
Female content creators, it doesn't seem to be the same playing field that we see across other industries. It's definitely a more female dominated sphere, but along with that, society sort of struggled to accept that in a few ways. Companies and brands do sort of see it as an opportunity to try and take advantage of you. Having known a few male content creators, I know they haven't quite had the same level of that. It's almost like they assume I'm not going to be aware of the fact that I can make money from this.
When I was like 18 and I left school, I wanted to go into film, and I am in film, or I am in like I direct commercials, and that's my job. So that's been amazing to kind of get to this point. But I went through social and I went through influencer. I like at age 18, I stepped on like film sets and in post-production houses, and I didn't see a world that was for me, like that had room for me in it. And it definitely didn't have room for me to be the creative voice in it either. I gravitated towards like social for that exact reason. And there were so many, as you say, from day one, so many women on social kind of just creating and being the creative force behind the content that was being put out.
I wanted to go into marketing, fashion. I wanted to work in the, the big advertising industry. I did internships and I didn't see a place for myself there either. And so I quit and just did something on my own, which was become a photographer for social media, and started doing social media for friends and family businesses that I knew, my aunt's like coconut water business or whatever it was. And through that, I was able to build up a portfolio of clients, which then landed up being built into an actual agency. And now I run an agency. And
I was at a different talent management agency. Before that, I was in advertising and marketing. And that was my first job after university. And it was fully dominated by men. And it was really hard as a female. And I saw it in the creative department as well. There were so many amazing female creators doing so much design. And at our International Women's Day talk, they were saying how it's so hard to be a female in the creative industry and have your voice heard. You're not taken seriously. When you fight for your work, you get told you're overly emotional. And it is really hard to make your mark, and especially when you look young or you are younger.
Speaking of working in male-dominated industries, Kavindi, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your work in space and working for the Space Studies program.
So my background started with astronomy and physics, and I am originally from Sri Lanka. And especially from that side of the world, it's very hard in the very first place to do science as a girl, because it's not encouraged, and you have a lot of cultural and societal stigmas that girls should be just teachers, or just do more feminine oriented work. So if you say you want to do space or go to space or become an astronaut, that's like a immediate like, are you crazy? Or so who's gonna take care of your kids, or like who's gonna be the woman in the family? For me, when it came to transitioning to the space industry, I had a problem identifying with people with my color, with my gender, on like how, like, why do I not see women doing these things? Why is it always an agency being led by a man? Or most of the astronauts are men too. I really believe in mentorship, and I think that's one of the things that really helped me get to where I am. And having a mentor who is like you or you can relate to makes a big difference. I'm still on the path to wanting to become an astronaut, and at the moment I also work for a company that is space media.
So would anyone else like to share some of their experiences on sexism in the workplace or at university, or if you've had an amazing experience and a male mentor who's really championed you?
Everything I do, and I think everything that you ladies are doing and that women on the whole are doing in this day and age, is to make a better future, because the system has been set up for men to thrive, and it's at their expectation. For me as a black woman, it's like a double layer, because it's like I'm a black woman, so it's two elements, and so it kind of really does shine the light on how far we haven't come. But a lot of new companies starting up, you know, the intention is there, and men are having taken on these different characteristics of the way that they lead. But ultimately, sexism and racism, like what has shown me, is that they are still very much there.
One of my close friends who I worked with previously, she very much spoke her mind, was unapologetically herself, but it actually ended up her across the company being seen as this aggressive, sort of stepping over her mark, because she was quite junior at the time, and it stunted her getting promoted.
I do think, as you said, there is a sort of a bias there when it comes to a young woman kind of speaking her mind and kind of offering an opinion, and that creates like a growth barrier. And so I think that's kind of, I think what I was presented with at the start of my career was like, well, if I want to grow to this place, but they don't want to hear me talk my way there or learn my way there or grow my way there, how do I do that? So you kind of have to go via the back door, and luckily the back door has kind of opened, I guess.
It'd be really interesting to hear if anyone feels like sort of imposter syndrome a bit when they reach a higher level. I remember starting here, and I hope Joe and Becky don't mind me saying this, but they, like, when they introduced me to people, they're like, oh, she's amazing, she's brilliant, like, about me. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, this is not me. And I said to my friends, I was like, they keep saying that I'm like really good at my job. And I was like, and I'm just like shocked by it. Like, I've never had that before. And they were like, if you were a man, would you be saying this to us right now? If you were a man, would you be questioning your brilliance? Would you be questioning how good you are at the job? Would you be questioning how you got here? And I was like, you know what, I actually probably wouldn't be. But like, there was just like this confidence thing where I was like, I've got great experience, I know I can do this job. But when people say that I'm good, I'm like, but like I'm not that good. Like, I can't take the compliments.
I've had to do some of that in my life before going into a meeting or before trying to pitch to a big client, just like saying, you know, those negative thoughts come in where I'm like, I definitely won't be able to win this pitch, or why would they want to work with a nobody like me? And then reframing that and going, actually, these people are looking for a service about on a topic that they have known nothing about. They're looking at me thinking that I'm the expert, and in their mind, I'm actually very knowledgeable on the subject and therefore an expert. So just go in like owning that expertism and feeling that you are that way. And
we all know that we're capable, or women know that we are capable. However, the expectation that is bestowed upon women and girls from a young age is that you have to be perfect. You have to get it 100% right. It's really unforgiving and uncompromising when a woman slips up or doesn't get it quite right. And actually, there's a real humility and learning to be made in making mistakes, and knowing that it's a safe space to actually make mistakes is not the environment that's been set up for women. It's been set up that way for men. So men are encouraged to fail big, and you know, we'll lift you
take
up.
risks.
Women,
Yeah,
don't you get it wrong now. Make sure you're right. You know, it's completely different messaging.
A lot of what you guys have been saying has really made me think about my experience at university, and like what you were saying, Kavindi, about mentors as well. Like the role that having a good female mentor is just incredible, because you see that humility, you see that these people, some of my professors who are absolutely incredible, world renowned in their fields, and you see them make little mistakes and you see them express a bit of emotion, and it really shows you that you can do that too, and you don't have to be perfect.
It's okay for like women to think that they need support from the workplace, because if you think about it, if you don't get the support from your family, if you don't get the support from your society, and you have all these people that you need to please and everything, the last thing you want is the support from your workplace. So for you to succeed, because if you don't have that coming from anywhere, at least you want that from the place and from the job that you like to do, and from the place that you want to grow.
I'd like us to touch on is talking about money and feeling comfortable either asking for a pay rise or demanding your worth, especially as a freelancer. You often get asked to do things for free. And just what your experiences have been like with money. Did you initially start out kind of feeling a bit uncomfortable talking about it? Have you got more comfortable? Because I think financial literacy is something that should be taught at schools, and I think it's insane, frankly, that we don't get taught about taxes, how mortgages work. You just kind of work it out on the fly, whereas it would set you up so well entering kind of adult life if you had just this like toolkit.
I saw a really interesting article the other day that put the cover of a female magazine like Cosmopolitan next to like a GQ, and both of the headlines on the GQ headline for men, it was all like, invest now, make double your money or triple your money, and this how's how to like get on the Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, blah blah blah. And on the females magazine cover, it was like penny pinching, how to save money, how to budget, discount prices on this and that. So it's like our mindset is being fed to it. It's how we think about money. Men have this like abundance mindset, and women have this like, I need to save. All of a sudden we're set up from a young age to think in that way.
I left a job because they refused to give me a pay rise, which was a big thing for me.
Wow.
And then when I handed my notice in, they actually offered me what I asked for. And I was like, you can't keep me here by offering what I've asked for. If you want to keep me, you're going to have to give me more. And it was quite early on in my career that I was like, I actually know my worth. And it was, what annoyed me was that I knew men at my level who got promoted and were getting paid more. And I didn't ask for much. I asked for 1K extra a year, and they refused to give it to me.
There's that infuriating articles that have been going around, which are like, millennial women are worried they're going to earn more than their partners. It's the same line,
worried.
right, Maria? It's like, they're not worried. No, we're not. Stop spreading this rumor so that you think you can justify not giving people. Sorry. Yeah.
Agreed.
It is actually speaking up, and it's not just speaking up, it's making a stand, like what I only just said, knowing your worth.
How do we get men to genuinely empathize for what we're going through? I mean I've been so inspired just sitting in this call with you guys for an hour. Probably there's so many of these calls going on, especially around International Women's Day, and there's loads of women coming together saying, let's speak up. How do we get men to get into this conversation who are really senior, at the really at the top, who are ones, who are building these systems?
For me, I think reverse mentoring, so that you're speaking with men, senior men within industries that are, so it doesn't matter what level you are, who you are, you're talking to somebody on a human level, and you're able to listen, and the task is to actually listen to their experience.
Yeah, I love what you said about speaking to people on a human level as a sort of solution to it. But obviously these systems of whatever industry you're involved in, they were set up by men. They're made by men for men.
Yep.
So trying to approach people within that capacity, you really struggle because it's not meant to cater for you. So I think the way to change that might be, like you say, speak to people, really try and connect with them, not within that profession. I mean, obviously you want to get to the stage where you can do it within that professional capacity, but trying to connect with people in that way that they really just see you as a person.
There's a lot of barriers that you need to break, but if you start breaking them at a very small age, and children are aware of these things, I think then those boys will, when they become to the men they become, then they're more like aware of these things, and then those women don't have to really do the things that we had to do.
It's important to push for that representation, and it's important to, right now when you're doing that, you're working within constraints. We're looking for like female gaffers and ACs, and people who carry massive camera kit, and it's just so hard to find these women because there are so few of them working. But the more you find them and the more you give them jobs, the bigger the pool of talent will be, because the job looks as great as it would have looked if it was all men doing it. My gender is somewhat, on a base level, it's irrelevant to how good this job's going to come out.
So I think basically the takeaways are: start conversations with any men in your life, give women that opportunities. Women, we should be able to do whatever the fuck we want to, and we're definitely getting there. And I feel super inspired by all of you. So thank you very much for sharing your time and giving your wonderful brains to this conversation.